Okay. Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. This is Brock Beard from LastCar.info, and this is the LastCar live stream for our Daytona road course weekend. And unlike NBC, we are going to do a post-race show here. So welcome aboard, everyone. Definitely curious what you guys are your thoughts are as we immediately clean through all of the dust and confusion that wrapped up the end of that. Apparently, we had a tangle in the final chicane that shook up the final order, and a final order that we did not get to see on the broadcast. And but as I see, I'm wearing the Kaz Grallis shirt today, honoring his time with Fury Race Cars LLC, and it turned out it was a fantastic run for him. First and foremost, congratulations to him on unofficially a 7th place finish for Richard Childress Racing. An outstanding performance. This is a guy that really knows how to make the most out of whatever opportunities are in front of him. Obviously, his road course experience is something that's more well known, but at the same time, in the number 61 car he had a couple of years ago, where they just had limited season runs, running show cars on the super speedway at Daytona, and getting some great runs in there. It's unfortunate that that team's not out there anymore, but it's good to see Kaz still out there and capitalizing on whatever situation that he can. It's unfortunate, of course, with Austin Dillon, and certainly hope that the test result that he received isn't going to be anything more prolonged than that. Hopefully he comes back next week for the action in Dover. But regardless, though, a fantastic run for Gralla under very unusual circumstances and a good performance there. I saw a comment already on that about Chris Buescher. A great run for him, the number 17. Good to see him get a top 5 out there. That's a team that we don't really see a whole lot this year, ever since the maneuver of him going back to Roush for the first time since his Busch Series days there. But that's definitely a different situation there. Got to talk about Michael McDowell. Had a great run for this, pretty much this entire run here. He had, I'm surprised he was only 10th at the end of the day there. Seemed like he had a top 5 car going at one point there. I know his teammate John Hunter got run off course at one point. But of course, all of this secondary to, and I'm seeing in the comments here, of course, as well. Chase Elliott, of course, your winner, continuing a streak of road course victories. Suddenly, both himself and Truex have been like head and shoulders above the rest of the group, even more than Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, who we usually see up there being factors. Both of them certainly having their share of struggles in the Cup race today. Brake issues, sending the number 18 behind the wall for about 6 laps, getting back out there, and then blowing both rear tires with a spin off of NASCAR turn 2, rather. And ultimately causing that final restart that we had towards the end of the race. And then Kevin Harvick just having spins by himself and never able to really recover from that. Ended up running at the tail end of the lead lap for much of the race there. Ended up finishing further down in the order. Truex, though, I mean, with the struggles that he faced in this race, several issues for him, the pit road speeding penalty, and just differing strategies along the way. Still able to recover to get that 3rd place finish. Seems like they've really turned up the wick here as we get closer to playoffs here, and they'll certainly be a force to be reckoned with. Obviously can't leave out Jimmy Johnson in that conversation as he tries to close the gap and get back into the top 16. Really like that new white paint scheme that he has on the car, and it seems like he does as well. I remember back in, I think, 2014, when he was running a white car and he had a lot of bad luck in that car, had almost got his first last place finish in that stretch. With an issue at New Hampshire and I believe over at Kentucky, if I remember correctly, having some struggles in those races. Seems to have the opposite effect this time around. So trying one thing or another, but good job on the paint scheme there on that one there for the team and the art department on that. Let's see. But gotta say though, it's a different. Overall, though, I gotta say, the broadcast of these races and all, I feel like I only got maybe about 15 to 20% of the experience. And I understand that there's a significant drop-off with what you see on the TV versus being at the track. And it's unfortunate that, of course, we're during this whole thing here where we have races like this where there's nobody in the stands or very few people in the stands. But in this one in particular, it seemed like both FS1, it wasn't just NBC, because FS1 at the truck race, and they seem to have similar issues there. There was a lot that we just didn't know was going on. And it could be that maybe there were so many people having problems and spinning out that we just weren't seeing it. But I always kept hearing on the radio, they kept saying, oh, somebody spun out in turn 6, somebody spun out in turn 5, somebody spun out in turn 10. It just kept being one or the other, and they'd never say who it was because it was the official thing, and you wouldn't know because the broadcast doesn't show it. So I don't know what the radio broadcast was like. I assume that was better. I didn't really listen to that this weekend, but that probably would have been better in hindsight. But the TV broadcast it was very lacking in general. And I know there's a lot of challenges to this, but especially on NBC's side, where they've now done the Roval a couple of years, it's not that they're not used to doing a broadcast of a race in the infield there. I felt that during the first Roval race, when they had to pay more attention as it being a championship cutoff event, they were able to actually kind of do multi-screens and show different battles at once and things like that. It seemed like they didn't really take advantage of that in this case and just kind of focused more on trick camera shots and just showing the lead and too many close-up shots too. I felt that if we had something more like a lot of these like higher up shots, helicopter shots and stuff like that we had in Michigan last week, I thought that was fantastic in spite of those races not always being the best. But at the same point, maybe the lightning and the weather in the area prevented that, and I can understand that in that sense. But still, it again shows the restrictions of the current regulations that are in place there. First of all, Beast of Metal, thank you so much again for the super chat on here. Nice to see McDowell rebound for another top 10 when the air seemed to slowly come out of his race after the stoppage. I saw him near 15th at one point. Yep, very good point on that. McDowell, again, I know we talk a lot about his last place record, how he was able to break that record earlier this year at Pocono. But the Front Row Motorsports team, and him in particular, as being somebody who's now been there for a few years, really have turned things around. And it's a lot of that can be accounted to Landon Castle's effort as well, and Chris Boucher's efforts with that team as well before they end up graduating from there. I think that those drivers, especially on Castle's side, who has such a long experience with this, was a big part of making that happen. And we're seeing the benefits of that from both McDowell and John Hunter Nemechek this year. Wouldn't surprise me if they break through. In a couple weeks here, when we get to the Oval at Daytona, Michael McDowell is certainly going to be somebody to watch because he almost had that one sewn up a couple years ago before he got gobbled up in an accident within the last 10 to 20 laps of the race. And maybe he can turn things around there. We always hear about his road course experience, but this is the first one that we've seen in a while where he's actually had to finish to show for it and not just the start of it. So I think that's a great start for them as well. Seeing a lot of comments about this, we certainly have to talk about the Xfinity Series and certainly Mike Harmon's team, the very up and down situation that they have had now in the last couple of days. We'll get into the Xfinity race a bit more here. We'll probably jump into that here pretty soon. But have to say, a great run, first of all. Let's start with the good news here. Great run, first of all, for both Bailey Currey and Kyle Weatherman on those teams. They've been a team that I've really enjoyed following this year because Harmon's team has been, again, one of these teams that we've talked about in the past that have been a last car fixture. Even though Harmon himself has not had that many last place finishes, you think back a few years ago when they were just running Dodges and being underpowered and not doing full races and having a lot of struggles there. But this year with these kids in those cars, especially since the return from the pandemic break, they have completely turned things around, and it's been a great story to follow. Weatherman getting their first top 10. Curry now in this last race getting his new career best. Weatherman getting another top 20. I think it's like his second or third in a row. Great performances for that. And then all of that tempered a bit because of the news that came out later that apparently one of their haulers with, I believe it was the number 47, I believe it was Weatherman's car in it, has been stolen. And I certainly hope that that's able to be recovered. Certainly shades of, for those of you going a bit further back, story of Team Extreme Racing, the number 44 car, some of the most beautiful cars out there. Their hauler was stolen during the Atlanta weekend in the spring of that year. And I don't know if the truck and the hauler were ever discovered, but the car was actually found abandoned in the woods somewhere. And at least the most expensive bit of equipment they were able to recover. Unfortunately, the team didn't go on much further after that. Certainly hope that that's not going to be the situation with Harmon's thing, especially with the consistency they've had this year. They certainly need their cars and their equipment to keep going out there, even as a two-car operation. And as they head into Dover this weekend, where I believe they have 2 Xfinity races this weekend, time is certainly of the essence for them to turn around that car. Even though those cars are, these particular cars are the ones they set aside for road courses. Again, the same paint scheme they've run on the Indy road course and at Road America last week. Road course cars are old, but they're much more specialized, and so it's much more important for them to get those back. Hopefully, something else kind of get worked out on that. On that same note, we certainly have to talk about. I see the comments on here as well. Temperature in the cockpit once again, really reaching a critical moment this year. It was silly, I think, in NASCAR's estimation, to start with having these Daytona races in the midst of hurricane season with lightning and huge storms running through there. We saw that even before the ARCA race a few days ago. But heat certainly being a tremendous issue again in the cockpit. We saw this with J.J. Yaley today in the race, where Bailey Curry had an unexpected double duty deal there in the Cup Series race, taking over for Yaley. Certainly hope that he's feeling okay. I know I'd seen him at Sears Point last year trying to recover with some ice bags and stuff after what was a very hot day in that event. And that was one where Cody Ware had pulled in shortly after with just completely red in the face and heat exhaustion. Again, it's an issue that I think NASCAR and especially the networks, unfortunately, are being very casual about. But it's a very serious issue, and it could potentially be very serious if in this national dialogue about health issues and what's important for everything in that regard. I think it should be very logical to talk about much more of what these different issues are. And I know that it's come up in the past. We talked about some of these big teams having cool suits and equipment that these small teams don't have access to. We actually saw a pretty good example of that, and NBC must get credit for this, for showing Jimmy Johnson's cool suit that he had. He had a cool shirt that had like the tubes that were circulating that certain chemical in there. I guess it causes like some endothermic reaction or something, like a cool pack or whatever it is, actually causing something that he was able to work through. And of course, Johnson ended up having a good finish out there. That's the kind of equipment that these small teams don't have. And what Kligerman was talking to me about last year, that the equipment like that really requires some very important maintenance to it. That it's really difficult for you having to work with that. A team like Hendrick Motorsports would be able to have that. A team like Rick Ware Racing, in spite of not any offense to Rick Ware Racing, they've made a lot of progress this year. They're trying to kind of combine with these other teams and get going, but they still aren't the one that really is able to have this much access. And the cool box, as Dale Jr. discussed, it just gets canceled out with a lot of the heat that circulates through the cars. And unfortunately, you get a situation much like we had in the Cup race today. So certainly hoping that Yaley's okay. We'll see what happens next week as they get ready for Dover. Dover is certainly another very demanding track. Even when they run it in June or September, running it in August, I'm sure, is going to be a challenge, especially as a doubleheader for these different teams here as well. Yeah, not sure exactly what the situation is with that, but hopefully we'll have something else on that. Jimmy Johnson 07 Roadblocks. He had a question about Morgan Shepherd's team. I don't know anything new on that. There is something I kind of want to work on with that to kind of get some more information. As far as I know, they've just still suspended operations. Obviously, the lack of qualifying has made things unusually difficult for them, which is particularly a problem when they have, especially these doubleheader weekends. I thought that would be something more in their wheelhouse. But of course, they're more attuned to the dollars and cents of the business, and that's not really something that I guess is working out on the page for them. We hope that they certainly turn up. Dover, in particular, is a track that Shepherd has a very long history at, but I haven't heard anything new one way or the other about if they're able to return back to the circuit. We can only just send positive vibes over there. But most importantly, hopefully sponsorship money. I know myself and Darian Gilliam were trying to talk a lot about this back at Fontana, but the sponsorships they had on the side of the car barely cover the bills. They needed something a lot more to kind of get things rolling, and hopefully things kind of work out there at the same time. Let's see what else we got here. Make sure I didn't miss anything else on this. Alrighty. But all right. Well, but again, the difficulties with the heat, the difficulties with the dimensions of the track, the difficulties even is making Marcus Ambrose mistakes. That was the other issue that Truex had, shutting off the car when the track is flat on the chicane and then not being able to refire the engine, costing him about 5 or 6 spots there in the earlier part of the race. It didn't help him either. It seemed like this was going to be one that was going to be something that Truex is going to certainly benefit from. Certainly almost won the inaugural Roval race just a couple years ago before the incident with Jimmy Johnson that handed the win to Ryan Blaney. Felt like we were going to get something very similar to that in this sense here, but didn't quite work out in that same sense. Motorsports Business Management, seeing your comment on there, Caleb. Yeah, not sure anything on that. I was very interested in how they were able to kind of change things very quickly. It's unfortunate Chad Fincham got swapped out of his car for the road course race there, but it ultimately had a bizarre set of circumstances there with the Roos brothers, where Bobby was his injury in the number 68 for Clay Greenfield's team was swapped out. Motorsports Business Management was able to bring him on board. I believe had a 30th place finish in his Xfinity debut. A good run for him. Unfortunately, his brother didn't have as much success in the Truck Series race, and that article is actually already posted on the site. I got that posted during the red flag. I'll have a formal post about that on the Twitter later on here and talk about what's going on with that. But unfortunately, it seemed the 49 truck at the start did not have, was unable to take the green flag or unable to run due to clutch issues. Clutch kept slipping out. Ultimately pulled the truck behind the wall. NASCAR didn't actually have a report that they were out of the race until the final results actually got posted afterwards. But that's certainly the article on that. Interesting subnote to that. My original statistics, and you'll see this on the page, show that there was one last place finish for the number 49. That was listed actually at a Dover race in 2004. I believe it was, I almost want to say Kyle Krisloff, but it wasn't. It was the it was a different driver out there, but he drove what it was listed as the 49. I double checked the statistics on that. That was actually number 59. So thus, the Roos finish that was earlier today was actually the first last place finish for the number 49 in Truck Series history. And there is a short list of truck numbers that have yet to finish last in the series that are on that same list. I believe the number 30 is the lowest number that hasn't finished last yet. But the number 49 was actually one of those. So that's why that wasn't reported at the time. The statistics show that there was another finish, but we were able to verify that. And so this is actually since the first last place finish for number 49, at least as of this note on that. And there was, at the end, a lot of mechanical issues and brake issues for a lot of the teams further back in that race. It didn't end up shaking out as to who's going to be the next to last place finisher until pretty late in the event there. But on top of that, though, great run for Jennifer Jo Cobb. Got to give a call to her. She had her 200th Truck Series finish, or Truck Series race, rather, today. Didn't turn out the best way she wanted to. Had brake issues earlier, much like with Kyle Busch, but not as severe. Brake line needed to be bled early on. Got her back out there. She had some pit road penalties, but still finished the race under power. So a decent finish for her. Certainly a team that, it doesn't get a lot of attention that often, but I was glad to see that it was talked about briefly during the FS1 broadcast, and certainly hope that better days are up ahead for her. Anything that gets her some extra screen time, like any of these other small teams, is certainly that much more valuable, and that ended up being a big thing on that as well. I like the idea of lightning tires there for EZB. Maybe that would be something else that they would look at the same time there, but that's always a possibility. You never know. If they get tires for any other condition, maybe something else like that. I'm always I think of tires and lightning. I always think of that scene from the movie Daylight with Sylvester Stallone, where there was a electrical line dangling down, and they had to the woman had to put shoes on her hands because she was convincing herself that rubber tires were the things that protect you when you get into the car during a lightning storm. And I don't know. It's too esoteric. I'm giving up too much of the movie, but if you ever check it out, that's a good popcorn movie if you're looking for something to watch while the theaters are shut down. Daylight from 1996, an entertaining film. Brendan Gaughan, though, again, the last place finish today in the Cup Series race, his first last place finish since 2012 at Fontana. Only the third of his career in the Cup Series. Obviously, he's focused more on the Xfinity Series side of his career. But a third different team that he's driven for, all of them with, of course, the family's South Point sponsorship on there. Didn't seem like Gaughan was going to be your last place finisher today because from the very start, there were several issues that were suffered by Stanton Barrett, who himself has made very few Cup Series starts these last few years. Barrett ran off the course a couple of times, had some other issues that dropped him behind the wall for a while, brake issues as well, it sounded like, from the communications. Ultimately got him back out there and finished 16 laps down in the 38th spot. Wasn't quite able to get around Kyle Busch, but he did pass Gone with about 2 to 3 laps to go, giving the number 62 a very rare last place finish. We'll have a full write-up on that for you guys later tonight on the Cup Series side. Both the Xfinity and the Truck Series articles, again, are already posted on there. Stanton Barrett in the 38th spot, Kyle Busch in 37th after that final wreck that brought out the caution. Garrett Smithley and John Hunter Nemechek rounding out the bottom 5. Bailey Curry was able to drive J.J. Yaley's car to the 34th spot. Corey LaJoie got spun out in the last lap, ended up the final car 1 lap down in the 32nd position. Ryan Blaney tumbled down in the rankings there, unfortunately getting in the 31st position. Hopefully we'll get a better idea of what exactly happened in that chicane on the last lap. It seemed like a lot of positions changed hands. There were questions about Bubba Wallace, certainly in the 25th position in the first race with the DoorDash sponsorship. Matt Kenseth, we didn't really see anything of him. I don't even know what sponsor he had. They showed him so little in the race, finishing in the 26th spot. Brennan Poole had an incident in one of the late chicanes there, and up in the 28th spot. James Davison had an interesting little bit of a battle there at one point. One thing that's going to feature in the Cup article today is after this rain delay was over, there was actually a bit of a race between both Davison in the 51 and Barrett in the 77, even though they were many laps apart. Both of them were getting pushed around the track by different trucks trying to get them push started. Davison's car, the driver wasn't quite sure how to start him up. He's an infrequent competitor in the Cup Series, doesn't know where all the switches and everything are. Was able to finally get that figured out. Barrett's car just wouldn't respond, had to go back behind the wall. Really difficult situation for them, but getting the car back out there as best as they could under the circumstances, and ultimately ended up being consequential in the last place battle. But a lot of different aspects there. I thought Christopher Bell had a good run in spite of the damage to the right front, like a good actual road course. A little bit of damage to the car isn't enough to take somebody out. You certainly look at Brett Moffitt and the great run he had in the Truck Series race earlier this morning. That'd be another thing. Kevin Harvick, actually, I'm looking at the results here, 17th spot for him. Given how much he struggled through that race, it's surprising that he was able to get even top 20 out of that. Alex Bowman, same thing. Thought he was going to rip the brake lines out with that flat tire, showing him in the 12th spot. We'll get into the Truck Series race here, and we'll certainly talk about a bit of the controversy in the Xfinity race as well. I was teasing that a little bit earlier, but we'll certainly jump into that, and we'll do some trivia here a little bit later on. No shortage of stuff to talk about. In spite of, I think, what was kind of a lackluster bit of coverage here, at least on the broadcast side, I think we did actually have some decent racing throughout the field. I think the problem was we just didn't get to see it, and that had a direct effect on what we were actually able to see throughout this same weekend here. Looking at the results here, Alex Tagliani got to do his one-off instead of at Mosport in the Truck Series, finishing in 22nd spot. Sheldon Creed pulling off a victory that actually went the full distance after his talk about heavy weather that rolled through in a previous race, getting his first career victory, this time holding off Moffitt. Got to feel bad for Rafael Lessard in spite of the third place finish there. Seemed like he was actually going to be doing much more than the results actually showed, only 3 laps led. He was even having a great run. Can't really say about what's going on with the situation with the problem with Christian Eckes on the number 18. Seems like he's, again, one of these drivers. We see this every once in a while in all 3 of the series, most often the Cup Series. But certainly in the Truck Series, Eckes and his continued struggles to try to get that first win, he seems to just get tantalizingly close and then ended up in some kind of ridiculous incidents. You think about the accident at Pocono, and then again today, getting the splitter ripped off right across the finish line. Not exactly the best scenario for him. Hopefully things turn around for him as we look ahead to Dover and the rest of the season there. Yes, you mentioned, Caleb, you mentioned the 30 truck as well. Scott Lagasse, very impressed. Lagasse is a driver that we usually only see at the super speedways, much in the same sense as Brendan Gaughan here lately. But running on the road course here, getting a top 10 finish with some pretty good damage, at least to the left side of his truck. 9th place finish for him is really good. Parker Kligerman, again, I think you think back to the unfortunate deal with Swan Racing in the Cup Series back in 2013, cost him a chance at getting some good runs out there. He's a good driver, good solid driver out there. Gets the very best out of these runs he has with Charlie Henderson's team. Seems to be a threat to win whenever he's able to do so. And in this one, still getting an 8th place finish and jumping back into his broadcasting duties for the Cup Series race. Consummate professional in that sense there. Tyler Ankrum looked like he had something going there. I did like, again, another paint scheme that I really liked from this weekend was Ankrum's number 26. I think that was that was much better than the other one that they ran before. I think it featured the brands a bit better. It stood out a lot more like the old Latitude 43 Air National Guard cars that David Stremme ran. And I believe Ken Schrader made one of his last Cup Series starts in those back in 2010. That's a different paint scheme that stands out. But Sheldon Creed just holding off Brett Moffitt in a heavily damaged truck for the win, but pretty much an uncontested last place finish battle with Roger Roos taking the last place spot ahead of Bobby Kennedy, Mark Smith, Jordan Anderson, and Spencer Davis, rounding out your bottom 5 finishers as several mechanical issues cropped up in just the final laps as some of these trucks were falling apart. Now, this brings us directly into our Xfinity race from the Daytona Road Course. For more on the ARCA race, look ahead to William Saki's feature that's going to be on that this week. That'll be on the website, but we'll talk about the top 3 series here mostly on this one. Justin Haley, the strange situation of the suspension failure that was caused by driving through the dirt and ripping the front splitter off the car. I think in thinking over this, I think what may have been the case is that we have a very narrow exception in the rules about the crash clock. And I'm wondering if NASCAR is going to do an official statement on this or would like to get some clarification. Even Bob Pockrass wasn't entirely sure what had gone on with this. You had the issue with Ross Chastain having the transmission issue, and at the same time, Haley's going through the chicane, runs the corner a bit short. The splitter digs in. There's so much rain that just rips the thing off, completely destroys the front of the car. Haley manages to drive the car all the way back around to the entrance of pit road, but he stops the car short of the entrance to pit road, and he doesn't get out of the car. Now, you notice a lot of aspects of the crash clock rule require that if you pull behind the wall after a crash or after any kind of crash damage, apparently, you're out of the race. If you climb out of the car after a crash, you're out of the race. It may even be when you drop the window net. I've heard different things on that. That would be another element of it. But you know, the crash clock itself doesn't start until you actually enter pit road. So in this case, he stops the car before the entrance of pit road, waits in the car for a push. He gets pushed in there, and then he gets pushed behind the wall. And for some reason, NASCAR discerned that that was a mechanical issue and actually gave them some time to fix it. Now, all this is academic, of course, because the car was so heavily destroyed that they quickly found they couldn't do anything with it, and he ended up finishing last in the race. But not last because of a crash, but last because of suspension issues. What's difficult in this sense is I wonder if he crossed that line and actually entered pit road, or if he climbed out of the car, they wouldn't have called that a suspension issue. They wouldn't. They would have done that. He would just been out under the crash block. But in this narrow part, I think with this particular set of circumstances, I think they allowed. I think maybe just found a loophole in the system. Maybe something like Jeff Burton on the coming down pit road during the All-Star race, saying, "Okay, I got to pit during this first segment. I'll pit on the last lap and then inherit the lead when everybody else pits," and something like that. You can't blame anybody for trying to find something like that. Unfortunately, this is the problem with not being able to cover the race in person and having everybody in the media standing way back in the booth. You can't get any other additional information. But I'd like to know what the story was on NASCAR side, or what your guys' thoughts are. That's as close as I can come to a theory on that, and try to figure out exactly what the situation is with that. Because if that's going to be the case, you're going to have a lot of drivers and teams that are going to try to do the exact same thing, being urged to actually drive their car as close to pit road as possible, get pushed in to get brought back to the garage area, all the while never getting out of the car. I don't know if that's the case or not, but you know, again, these in racing, it's all about finding the gaps between the rules, and you can't really get too angry at these teams for trying to figure something like that out. I can't think if there's any actual explanation otherwise, because during all the race today, anybody that was able to just make the slightest bit of contact, whether it was the incident between Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex that pushed the fender end on the tire, that counted as a crash, and Hamlin cleared the crash block. The incident between John Hunter Nemechek and I believe Ryan Preece, where Preece spun Christopher Bell out. Nobody hit the wall or anything. They were on the crash block, and NASCAR made a statement saying they'd reached minimum speed. So, okay, so some kind of contact, even incidental contact, apparently, counts as a crash block. I guess they came down pit road and it was something like that. Oh my goodness, piece of metal. Thank you again so much for uh, the super chat here. My goodness. Now, I remember you tweeting about this, and I'm afraid I'm not that literate in other sports, but I'll certainly do the quote here. So that Jeff Finger guy we grossly overpaid and is being buried in the AHL now. Yeah, it turns out we may have been thinking about Kurt Sauer. What if the Haley thing is NASCAR doing the same thing with him and Ross Chastain? I don't know. Again, I don't want to speculate on things like this, but when something like this happens that's so incongruous to the rule, it makes it, there must be some thinking process. Either on the one side, maybe the NASCAR just did an oversight and they should have enacted the crash clock, or this team was able to either accidentally or intentionally find a loophole in it, and they were able to, if they were able to fix the 11 car and get them back out there, they would have been able to. Certainly, as a championship contender, that would be to their advantage. But obviously, in this case, it didn't help because the car was completely destroyed, and there was no way for them to know it because there's limitations to that. But yeah, Beast of Metal, yeah, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really, you are a scholar and a gentleman for sure. And definitely thank you on that. But yeah, that's a story that I'd like to hear more about. Hopefully something else turns up. These rules issues tend to get clarified later on, and that one is certainly that I'm definitely looking to try to kind of understand at the exact same time, because that it played out very. I think that, I mean, there's been other cases. I think at Pocono is a particular case. There was one between Matt DiBenedetto and Art Almirola where they both spun into the dirt on the first lap, and the front of their cars were tore up. And one of them was pushed to pit road, and one of them drove to pit road, and that ended up having a factor into who finished behind the other one. But I believe in that case, they were both out because of an accident. It wasn't the damaged vehicle policy because they didn't attempt to repair the car. So, it's a bizarre situation. I don't know what they were exactly thinking on that case, but at the end of the day, it's still a last place finish, and it's going to be a note that I'm going to leave in my chart here about that finish there to see if we get anything followed up there. The rest of the bottom five, Daniel Hemrick just can't buy himself a break. He was out because of an accident. 3 laps after Haley's incident, finishing in 37th spot. Ross Chastain, his teammate, only gets up to 36, still finishing under power, though several laps down. Harold Crooms making his series debut, driving the number 66. Seemed to be a shoe-in for last place in the early laps. Ends up climbing to 35th before brake issues took him out. And then Brandon Brown, unfortunately, that great-looking road course car, ends up only getting in the 34th spot with a fractured axle, dropping him to the 40th spot. But in this one here, we had some other good runs. We mentioned the Mike Harmon cars earlier. They were not at all the only ones. Andy Lally getting his second straight top 5 finish. A great run for him and for the Chris Auer team. Jeremy Clements got into the fence when he got into the incident with Justin Haley. Still gets a 6th place finish. Myatt Snyder and Ryan Sieg finished nose to tail in 10th and 11th. You got Josh Bilicki. He backs up the great run he had at Road America. This time he doesn't fall back to the far end of the top 20. He gets right in there at a 12th place finish, which I believe ties his career best. Great run for him. Jay Buford, I think he's just a complete sleeper out here in terms of road course drivers. I was impressed with his run back at Indianapolis, and here he comes into this Daytona race. Another top 20 finish, 16th place finish for him. Scott Heckert. I wasn't too confident in him after the issue that he had during all of Road America, to the point where the car just blew up. It gave up the ghost there, it seemed, at the end of the race. Or maybe I'm thinking of Matt Mills in that case. But I know Heckert spun out a lot in that one towards the end. Heckert, in this case, he only gets a 19th place finish, but he was running much better than that earlier. Was running about the 6th spot when he got knocked off into the chicane there, the new chicane, rather, towards the end. And ended up dropping back further in the order. I think that was a great run for both him and B.J. McLeod's team on that front. Even finished ahead of McLeod by 1 position. The other one that's kind of hidden under the fold there was Stephen Light's 21st place finish. Light, when he gets a chance to run a full race on these road courses, he's very solid out there. Again, about the same performance that we saw out of him at Road America and again at the Indianapolis road course. It's unfortunate that we're pretty much closing out the road course season with this, short of the Roval, of course, Charlotte. I anticipate Lights can be one that's going to be interesting to watch if they give him another chance to run a full race there. he certainly paid his dues, being one of the front runners in the NASCAR Xfinity Championship on the ovals. We'll see what he can do on that going forward. Cody Vanderwall, I didn't mention him in the article, but the spin that he had at the beginning there before the race even started didn't lead things off very well for him. Ended up dropping to the back of the field before the race even started. He gets 23rd place finish, a good performance for him and the Jimmy Means team. So that was certainly very exciting there. Too bad that Earl Bamber had several issues there and ended up finishing in the 33rd spot. It looked like he was in position to pull an Andy Lally kind of upset there in the top 5. Unfortunately, wasn't in the cards for him. I hope he gives NASCAR another chance here and does some other road races in the future. Maybe that was enough for him to lock up a run at the Roval here later this year, although with playoff situations here. Obviously, we saw how much things came to blows between A.J. Allmendinger and Justin Allgaier. I mean, came short of that. Certainly the war of words between the two of them. Maybe that's something that a lot of these teams aren't exactly welcome for or wanting to see, but it puts on a good show, and maybe that would be something else that can happen there along the same respects there. But yeah, again, a lot of different issues here, but I think that was a big theme from all of these. Some impressive runs there, some not so impressive runs from others. A lot of mechanical issues, a lot of heat exhaustion, and a lot of kind of not the best broadcasting out there from this weekend. But hopefully, in all respects, it's a learning experience, and we can get a bit closer to improving things on all fronts and kind of getting things where they need to be. At this moment, I also want to, again, extend a thank you, everyone, to everyone for spreading the video that I did with Slap Shoes there a couple weeks ago, at the beginning of the end, the story of the Bobby Gins team. And wouldn't you know it, after we posted that, what happens? We get news about a so-called celebrity investor in Richard Petty Motorsports. And again, as I tweeted the other day, everything old is new again. We are now in a situation where perhaps we're having more outside investors in the sport. And I think if you watch that video, there's certainly reason to be at least a little bit skeptical of that. Not in every case do these teams really have extended success once it gets to that point. Now, maybe in the case of a single car team like Richard Petty Motorsports, you could have a situation that's a bit closer to what we talked about with Jeffrey Bodine's team when it became Matei Motorsports, or Bahari Racing when it became Eel River Racing. Those weren't very successful years that they had afterwards, but it did keep the team operating, and maybe that would be the case. If we're talking about Richard Petty Motorsports as a one-car team versus the investment of Bobby Ginn into a multi-car team and then trying to expand it even further, and then the walls just coming down around them less than basically 1 year later, hopefully it's not a situation like that. It is an interesting situation, having talked about that video, that, again, this is not an investment in the old school Petty Enterprises from the old SCP days. This is an investment in what's left of the Gillette Evernham team after the reduction in force from that operation after the merger with George Gillette's investment in 2007. So it's really a merger with what's left of that operation. Now, hopefully that works out for all parties involved. It's going to be something that it could go one way or the other. And I don't think we're going to know all the answers, certainly if they're not letting in on who exactly the celebrity is that's investing in the team. But if they're attracting other sponsors, that definitely sets this apart a bit from these other investments. Although I will mention that in the Bobby Ginn situation, talking about these piecemeal sponsors coming in, maybe one sponsor for 4 races, one sponsor for 1 race, there is some overlap there. I think it's a little more forgiving in this case because we have a time where these piecemeal sponsors are much more common. And I think it makes it much more difficult to understand when a team really is on the banana peel and on the potentially being in danger of losing funding because everybody, even the big teams, are cobbling together sponsors as best they can. Something like Ally Bank or FedEx is very rare nowadays. And that's why those teams are just kind of in a whole other category from teams that are further back. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting story. Hopefully, we'll get some more information on that. But that would certainly be interesting in that same sense. But yeah, I think that's going to be the thing. I've seen a lot of comments on here on Floyd Mayweather. It would be interesting. I don't know. Again, I think anything's possible at this point. NASCAR has had a long and very bizarre history of their investors or people that want to start teams from whole cloth. If we talk about the different football players that have invested in teams, we want to talk about Elliott Marino Motorsports or Hall of Fame Racing, or any Brett Favre's investment in the team that Kenny Irwin drove briefly for a while there with Jason Jarrett. It's going to be really interesting. I don't really know exactly what the situation is here, or what the big news is going to be, Caleb, there, but I think that's what's going to make things very interesting. And whatever it is, we'll certainly cover it in our entry list storylines article that'll be posted later this week. Probably still Thursday, even though the truck races can be Friday. We'll wait later this week because there's going to be so many different races and probably some other lineup changes along the way. So I appreciate you bearing with me on that. But I think it's very interesting to see things change around with the situation with both the Bobby Giddens situation and all that. But again, thank you so much for sharing the video that myself and Slap Shoes did. I'm very pleased with the response on that. The hit count is pretty much almost up to 3 before February, which is well above my expectations on that. And I'm also very pleased that it looks like a lot of people are checking out the other videos on my channel. So I'm glad I reorganized the channel and made it a little more user-friendly. I think that's going to be better there. One thing that I'm working on here is actually an intro to these live streams. I'd like to do an intro video on here. I'm still not that literate in using it just through YouTube's interface. And my video card isn't letting me use like OBS or something like that. So I'm going to try to find a workaround on that, make this look a little bit more polished for our future shows. But that'll be something else that we're going to be working out with that. So we'll go ahead and jump into trivia here. I think we're winding down a little bit on our race reviews. If you guys have any other questions about other news stories or other things that have happened during these races that I haven't covered yet, certainly go ahead and drop in the comments. I'd be happy to talk about it. Seeing that anything else is coming up here, just checking out other stuff back here. Yeah, lots of different storylines from all of this. Okay, we'll leave this open here. In the meantime, we got this on here at the same time, and we will check this out. Okay. Alrighty. So again, for those of you new to the trivia segment here, I saw we had a good amount in here. We got 28 people in here, right on. So thank you again for those of you who stuck around that long through our discussion of what happened from the races here. And we'll go ahead and do some trivia here to kind of round us out. The categories again are NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Whichever category you want, go ahead and drop those in the comments. NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Seeing a question here, Breezy B. Quick question. Roger Penske having Tony Renner footage. That's a good question. I know it's definitely a mystery, as you can tell from the video with NASCAR Man, that we don't know exactly what happened from that. And there's a lot of it's strange to have something that happens that recently. Much like I've seen some other videos where talk about Elliott Sadler's wreck at Pocono. I think it's something that we would want to know more about what exactly happened and maybe what was learned from it. Be instructive as it is, just understanding what that mystery is. But yeah, I mean, maybe there's a possibility of something like that turning up. I think I'm not sure exactly how deep the archives go, but if Roger Penske is buying that wholesale with everything else at Indy, you never know if something like that turns up, either maybe some other documentary or something along the ways. Really got to say, again, thank you so much also to NASCAR Man for the great job that he did on the video that he sent the script to me on, the one on the LR series. Very relevant after seeing these cars and trucks struggle around this track so much this weekend in Daytona. I thought that was a very interesting story on there and some interesting footage from a lot of races that maybe don't get talked about that much. I thought that was a very well-researched project that he did. Definitely check out his video on NASCAR Man history if you haven't already. I posted the link again during the delay, I believe, yesterday for the Xfinity race, and so the link will be back on there. Let's see. We got other categories on here. Tracks, drivers. I see a couple for tracks. Maybe we'll start with that and see what we can get on here at the same time. Whoop, here we go. Hang on. All righty, we'll do tracks to lead off because I think we haven't done that one in a little while here. And all righty. Okay, first question of the night. What Tennessee city stopped hosting NASCAR Winston Cup events in 1984? What Tennessee city stopped hosting NASCAR Winston Cup events in 1984? That is our first question. What Tennessee city stopped hosting NASCAR Winston Cup events in 1984? Excuse me, I'm going to grab this here. The old ketchup bottle, water bottle here. All righty. All righty. What Tennessee city stopped hosting NASCAR Winston Cup events in 1984? Nashville, Johnsonville, Knoxville, Puerto Rico. Got several guesses in here. The answer is, of course, Nashville. Nashville, very much still in the news. We'll see what happens here. I haven't mentioned this, but I don't hope this isn't throwing you. I'm wearing different glasses here. I kid you not. When Martin Truex Jr. sped down pit road, a little hinge failed on my glasses there at the same time. I guess my glasses were a Truex fan at the time. So we got that to the different scenario. So these are my backups. I'm glad the prescription is not too different from what I have. So yeah, it's not. Don't adjust your computer. That's the difference there. Yeah, believe me, this bottle got a lot of it turned a lot of heads at the hospital there for sure. Like you look at it like, wait, what? But I got this red bottle as the first thing I thought of. It's like the ketchup bottles from Dumb and Dumber that they scored on the table there. Alrighty. Yeah, the glasses failed post-race inspection. I think that's exactly it. They were certainly too low. I think we had that problem. It just went, and we're like, oh, that's not good. Okay. Next question. How long were each of the twin qualifying races at Daytona between 1959 and 1967? How long were each of the twin qualifying races at Daytona between 1959 and 1967? How long? Yeah, we'll count miles here. How long were each of the twin qualifying races at Daytona between 1959 and 1967? Okay. How long were each of the twin qualifying races at Daytona between 1959 and 1967? And the answer is 100 miles. You guys got it. You guys got it. There you go. Oh, you got it. Caleb, not quite. 125 apparently came in afterwards, and then 150 even beyond that. But it started off at 100 miles. Okay, next question here. Okay, here we go. Here's a slap shoes kind of theme question right here. What now sits on the former site of the Ontario Motor Speedway? What now sits on the former site of the Ontario Motor Speedway? This is as of 1998. So again, development being what it is, could be something different than what's there now. I'll leave it up to you to kind of guess on that. All right, take it easy, Greg. Greg, thanks for coming by. What now sits on the former site of the Ontario Motor Speedway? That is our next question. We have a mall, we have a steel plant, shopping mall, apartment complex, maple syrup factory, a foundry. These are all good guesses. You never know what it could be. It could be something really odd, and you never know how specific this thing's going to be. It could just say like commercial real estate, or it could say something like a McDonald's or something. It could be something like that. But what now sits on the former site of the Ontario Motor Speedway? Football stadium? Okay, let's see. The answer is indeed a shopping center. A shopping center, a very big shopping center, I will say. That's when we stopped by there on the way to Fontana just this year. It's actually got like 2 movie theaters in it, and like there's a Hooters that Tony Stewart's crew went to that's parked like right outside where Turn 4 was. Yeah, it's completely different in that area now. So a shopping center is indeed the correct answer. Alrighty. Here we go. Who led 155 laps, including the white flag lap, at the 1990 Daytona 500? Who led 155 laps, including the white flag lap, at the 1990 Daytona 500? That is our next question. I think you guys got it. Looks like you got it already. Any Applebee's for Mike Harmon to eat and fighting? I think there might actually be. I think you're right, MLG Pro Swag. I think there is. I think if you go to if there's ever a fight at the Auto Club Speedway, I guess you wouldn't have to go too far from there. And the answer is indeed Dale Earnhardt. Indeed, you guys all got it. Dale Earnhardt. Not quite Melt Disney, no tires, just gas. Not Kyle Busch. Nope. Dale Earnhardt, indeed. Alrighty. Next question. Where did Brett Bodine win his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? Where did Brett Bodine win his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? Where? This is our next question. Where did Brett Bodine win his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? Another 1990 trivia question. Seem to have a theme here already. Sometimes you get several ones on a theme. Chase Elliott Land, Talladega, Wilkesboro. It's a product of watching Aqua Teens over 5 years. Yeah, there you go. Don't need no instructions to know how to rock. Okay. Where did Brett Bodine win his first NASCAR Winston Cup race? And the answer is indeed North Wilkesboro. Wilkesboro is indeed the correct answer. And there you go. Courtesy of Bill France. Yeah, well, there you go. Interesting star-crossed history between Brett Bodine and Darrell Waltrip. As pointed out in our video on the Victory Tour recently, it was Bodine who actually beat Darrell Waltrip's, or actually, excuse me, I guess it was Ricky Rudd's ultimate track record speed and Darrell Waltrip's in second round qualifying. But that would be another thing that happened after that. Alrighty. Next question. What track's second turn did Waltrip call, quote, the most difficult in NASCAR? What track's second turn did Waltrip call the most difficult in NASCAR? That is our next question. What track's second turn did Waltrip call the most difficult in NASCAR? We have one guess for Pocono. We have one guess for Darlington. Let's see. It says Darrell. It just says did Waltrip. It doesn't say Darrell Waltrip. I take that back. I'll read it again. What track's second turn did Waltrip call, quote, the most difficult in NASCAR? So it doesn't say. I assume it's Darrell, but it could be Michael. And if it were Michael, it makes you wonder how different the answer would be. It's not like they ran different tracks, but certainly different time periods. Thank you, Hippie Two Sheds. I'm glad you liked the Waltrip video. I'm very proud of that one. I'm a little disappointed it doesn't do very well, but I think it. I still should have said he was tied for fourth all time. I always forget Gordon passed him in the win rankings, but other than that, I was very happy with that. The music track, the Patrick Patricchio's track on that, I'm very happy with because the soft like synth sound in the background gave me a great like Days of Thunder feel to it. And purely by accident, just came across that track. I felt it fit the tone of the video pretty well, I like that one. But that's a different one there. What track's second turn did Waltrip call the most difficult in NASCAR? The answer is Pocono. The answer is indeed Pocono. The William Byron rest area. Okay, I like that. I guess that'd be the apron of that corner at Charlotte where that cost Chase Elliott winning the 600 this year. Yeah, it did just say Waltrip. That was bizarre, but it does say Pocono. I guess if we're talking about a second turn, I guess it'd be hard to talk about a second turn most places because unless you talk about the exit of the corner, I suppose. If you're talking about Darlington, I guess the first corner or the third corner would be tricky depending on which side is more treacherous. All right, here we go. Where did Neil Bonnet post his first ever NASCAR Winston Cup victory? There we go. We're going a little bit further back. Where did Neil Bonnet post his first ever NASCAR Winston Cup victory? That is our next question. Where did Neil Bonnet post his first ever NASCAR Winston Cup victory? Could have been Stevie. You're right. 8206. Very good point. It could have been Stevie. Where did Neil Bonnet post? It could have been Buffy. Hey, you never know. Where did Neil Bonnet post his first ever NASCAR Winston Cup victory? His first ever one for Neil Bonnet. Going a bit further back. There's an old school question here. All right. Mikey's fun. I always enjoyed his personality. There you go. Where did Neil Bonnet post his first ever NASCAR Winston Cup victory? Okay, I guess it's for Darlington, Talladega, Casgralla Place. Not quite. Richmond, Talladega, Nashville, Richmond. Okay, the answer is Richmond. Richmond is indeed the correct answer. Maserati 9, Andrew Hayes, NASCAR Fan 93 100. So you all got it. There you go. Jack Garland suggesting the video on the final season for Ricky Rudd or maybe Dale Jr. Those are ideas. Those are ideas. Something on Rudd would be fun. That was definitely another driver I pulled for during the Jerry Nadeau days. That'd be interesting to do. Do I remember Neil Bond as a broadcaster? I do, Jack. Absolutely. I mentioned. I think we talked about this in the aftermath of the video I did with NASCAR Man on the '94 Speed Weeks. I only knew Neil Bond as a broadcaster. I didn't really know much about him as a driver because I came into the sport pretty much after his injury at Darlington in 1990. So I had only seen him on winners. When he decided to go back out there and run Daytona in '94, I was like, well, that would have been akin to just getting into NASCAR in 2001, 2002, and not knowing that Darrell Waltrip used to drive or something, and then him going back into the Cup Series and trying to run the 500. It seems unthinkable in comparison, but that's kind of what it felt like. That was definitely a different situation for me. Sorry to hear that you had a rough week there, 93 100, but hope things are turning things around better for you for sure. See if we can get you some trivia questions along with some good vibes your direction here. What track was the site of David Pearson's career win number 100? Oh my goodness, 93 100. I'm so sorry. My condolences. Absolutely. Appreciate you coming by here on this. I certainly hope, if anything helps on that for sure. What track was the site of David Pearson's career win number 100? That is our next question here. The track was the site of David Pearson's career win number 100. We have guesses for Charlotte, Darlington, North Wilkesboro. All right. We mentioned 8206 there for Wally Dallenbach back this weekend. Yeah, that was nice to see. It was good to see Wally Dallenbach back out there, for sure. All right. What track was the site of David Pearson's career win number 100? There we go. Everybody send good vibes over 93 100, please, for sure. What track was the site of David Pearson's career win number 100? The answer is Rockingham. I don't think anybody got that. Anybody get that? Rockingham? Yeah, I think Darlington was the site of his last win, but his 100th win was the question. Rockingham was the correct one. Claudia, do you think NASCAR will ever get back to their roots and make decisions that please their core base? Tough to say. I don't know. I think there's I don't know. I don't know. It seems hard to predict with everything going on this year. How many changes have been made out of necessity versus just NASCAR being NASCAR? But we'll find out. We'll find out. Yeah, man. Alrighty. Okay, next question here. How many times did Fords win NASCAR Winston Cup races at Phoenix from 1988 to 1996. Don't look it up on Racing Reference. Try to guess it if you can. No such thing as a bad guess. How many times did Ford win NASCAR Winston Cup races at Phoenix from 1988 to 1996? That's the next question. Okay, we have guesses 9, 5, 14, 6. My name, 4, 3, 6,932. How many times did Fords win Winston Cup races at Phoenix from 1988 through 1996? That is our next question. Alrighty. Kawicki was one of those winners. You'd be correct, absolutely. So you know there's at least one, but how many more? How many times did Fords win NASCAR Winston Cup races at Phoenix from 1988 to 1996? The answer is 6. 6 is the correct answer. Anybody else get that? Ultimate 23 Dragon, you got it. I think you were the only one to get it. It's like it. See, no tires, no tires, just gas. If you just stopped at your first number, you would have got that. 6 is the one. All right. We'll do a few more here and call it good there. All right. Here we go. Here's another one. What track had 13 different winners in the first 13 years of its July race? What track had 13 different winners in the first 13 years of its July race? That's our next question. What track had 13 different winners in the first 13 years of its July race? Keep guessing Sesame Place, no tires, just gas. I'm not sure if that's ever going to work out for you. Maybe it will. Maybe it's going to, we'll get some strange questions coming up here, and we'll get something like that. What track had 13 different winners in the first 13 years of its July race? Texas, Talladega, Daytona, Michigan, or Pocono? Okay, we have several guesses. What track had 13 different winners in the first 13 years of its July race? The answer is Talladega. Talladega is the correct answer. Andrew Hayes, you got it first. And I think you were the only one to guess Talladega. I was going to think Daytona. I thought Daytona had something like that. But Talladega is the correct answer. Maserati 9, there you go. Oh, here's a fun. This is gonna be a fun one to read. Here we go. Who won at Richmond in 1959, driving a car nicknamed Thunder Chicken? Yes, you heard that correctly. Who won at Richmond in 1959, driving a car nicknamed Thunder Chicken? Thunder Chicken. Who drew? Okay, well, if I come up with another nickname for that, it's probably going to get probably going to sound wrong. Who won at Richmond in 1959, driving a car nicknamed Thunder Chicken? Yeah, Ian Miller, you got it. Thunder Chicken. Thunder Chicken should have run this weekend. Thunder Chicken probably would have won by like 30 laps. I don't know. Who won at Richmond in 1959? Richmond, 1959, the car nicknamed Thunder Chicken. Fireball Roberts, Joe Weatherly, Tim Flock. Go ahead and just guess there. Cookie Monster. No, maybe not. Curtis Turner, Flock, Jaroslav Halleck, Halleck. You guys can just put weird things on here for me to say. There you go. I'm sure I'm going to you're going to find more names for me to just completely butcher, like in last week's show, I recall. That could be the trend here. Who won at Richmond in 1959, driving a car nicknamed Thunder Chicken? Who drove the Thunder Chicken? All righty, we got to find the answer to this. All righty, the answer is Cotton Owens. Cotton Owens, the driver of Thunder Chicken, who won at Richmond in 1959. I don't think anybody got that. Weatherly would have been a good guess. That sounds like something Weatherly would do. Thunder Chicken. That should have probably been the name for this live stream. I wouldn't have thought. Handled that one relatively well. Yeah, relatively well. Yeah. No, You keep putting Yaroslav Halak, Jaroslav, Jaroslav. Let me butcher it some more. Jaroslav Halak. I don't know. I feel like if I say that enough times, Rumpelstiltskin will appear or something. Okay. Here we go. What was the spring race at Darlington called from 1957 through 1962? We have event names here. What was the spring race at Darlington called from 1957 through 1962? Thunder Chicken is the one. Yeah, Thunderbird. Yeah, I mean, that would have been a good guess. Maybe that's why they called it that. But Thunder Chicken has a better, sounds like something that KFC would come up with. What was the spring race at Darlington called from 1957 through 1962? To go bowling 266? Probably not. Alrighty, from 1957 through 1962, the answer is the Rebel 300. The Rebel 300, an even shorter event. Kind of the events like the lengths that we have now. The Rebel 300. 1957 through 1962 is what the question asked. Spring race at Darlington, 57 through 62. And it said Rebel 300 here. Rebel 250 could have been, yeah, it could have been that too as well, but maybe it's could be painting in broad strokes here. Yeah, you were close, 93-100. You were very close. Yeah, pretty much anybody who guessed the Rebel blank, you pretty much were right on top of it. I always think about the Trans-South races in the later years, but that would be a different one. Alrighty. Who was the first rookie to sit on the pole for the Daytona 500? Daytona 500 questions. Who was the first rookie to sit on the pole at the Daytona 500? Majeski was released from the care center. That's good. Or from the medical center. Even better. Excellent. Who was the first rookie to sit on the pole at the Daytona 500? The first rookie to sit on the pole at the Daytona 500. We have guesses for Loy Allen, Jimmy Johnson, Richard Petty. Okay, come on, BSML. You're not playing fair. Mikko Koskinen. Mikko Koskinen. Koskinen. If we think about Scottish, or we talking, it sounds like we're talking about Swedish. Who was the first rookie to sit on the pole at the Daytona 500? Kaz Gralla. He drove the Hooters car, but I can't think of his name. You're right on top of it. And the answer is indeed Loy Allen. Loy Allen is correct. I had exactly right the first time. Mikko Koskinen. Loy Allen is the correct answer. Okay. Here. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. This is going to be a tricky one. This would be like a $1,000 Jeopardy question here. Who was the first rookie to win the NASCAR Winston West Series? Who was the first rookie to win the NASCAR Winston West Series? Now, I don't know if it means a race or a championship. If it's saying win the series, I assume it means championship. But it says, who was the first rookie to win the NASCAR Winston West Series? What was his stat line? 3 poles, 12 DNQs. Yeah, he had a rough 1994. Loy Allen did. That's for sure. Alrighty. Who was the first rookie to win the NASCAR Winston West Series? We're looking for a driver name. We got Hornaday, we got Martin, we got Harvick, we got Butch Gilliland. Several other guesses here. The first rookie to win the NASCAR Winston West Series. And again, we're thinking late 90s, about the time this was made. I don't think this thing has a Wi-Fi access, so it probably doesn't update. It'd be amazing if it did, wouldn't it? It'd be great if it had like a phone port and I could plug it into dial-up and maybe it'll update that way. I got like 15 years worth of updates that have been backlogged here. Who is the first rookie to win the NASCAR Winston West Series? Alrighty, and the answer is Lance Hooper. Lance Hooper, there's a throwback. Lance Hooper is the one on here. Yeah, the West Series is always fun to watch. You watch those classic ones there. And it's great to see them try to attempt the cup races. I thought that was always interesting. Alrighty. What track hosted the first American Challenge Cup? This is a series that came up in the 3 before February, if I'm not mistaken. What track hosted the first American Challenge Cup? What track? Gralla in 7th. Do we have anything else on the results? I don't think we have anything new on that. Alrighty, what track hosted the first American Challenge Cup? That is the next question. Phoenix, Watkins Glen, Daytona, Charlotte, the Charlotte Roval. Indeed, Digger Racer 47. Yeah, great run by Kaz Gralla. That's why we got. I didn't count him doing that well for sure, but I'm glad to definitely bring this one out of storage. Yeah, Lance Hooper made it. He made some starts in the Cup Series. I think he tried running some other races with some smaller teams. What track hosted the first American Challenge Cup is a current question. We do not have the answer yet. And the answer is Daytona. Caleb Watkins, 93-100. You got it. Mitchell Brown, you got it. Maserati 9, looks like you were the first on the button there. Daytona is indeed the correct answer. He'll finish on the lead lap. Good run for Motorsports Business Management. Absolutely. See if we got anything else here. Get the racing reference page pulled up. In the background, the Go Bowling 235. Yeah, Brendan Gaughan indeed shown out with transmission issues. Battery issues for Garrett Smithley. Crash for Kyle Busch. Crash for John Hunter Nemechek. Doesn't seem like he got damaged that badly, but I suppose he did. I guess it wasn't that same incident. Who finished last today? Adam Diamond. That was Brendan Gaughan. Brendan Gaughan edged Stanton Barrett in the last 2 laps to take over the last spot. Barrett had a really difficult run with a lot of issues, especially with the brakes, and had to deal with that. MLG Pro Swag, you asked about the rain tires. I think it was Lefty that put it up there. The thing about the yellow rim on there and invert the Goodyear logo, I think that was the way to go. Just have rain tires that way. I think that would be really good. Maybe it would be difficult because it turns to kind of a yellow blur with the logo, but it would be brighter, so maybe it'll be something to try. I think that would be good. What new track boasts 70? Oh, wait, hang on. What the heck? Oh yeah, we did last answer. Last answer was Daytona. Okay, I'll make sure I got the answer on that one. Alrighty. Here we go. We're gonna do a couple here. White logos instead of yellow. That would be fine. I mean, something like that would be at least at first glance you can tell the difference. Chase Elliott tied Kyle Petty for wins. It adds up quick. Alrighty. We're going to do a couple more questions here. We'll probably wrap up here. What new track boasts 71 corporate suites, 40 skyboxes, and 25 women's restrooms? What new track boasts 71 corporate suites, 40 skyboxes, and 25 women's restrooms? Light blue and cyan, that'd be nice. Try something like that. What new track boasts 71 corporate suites, 40 skyboxes, and 25 women's restrooms? That is our next question. I don't believe it's Chase Elliott Land or Nashville Super Speedway, but we'll see. Charlotte, Texas. Alrighty, and the answer is California. California is the correct answer. Ultimate 23 Dragon. You got it right off the bat. California is the correct answer. Anybody else get that? I think that was the only ones we had on there. There you go. California. I wouldn't have guessed. It seemed like a Texas question. It seemed like a Texas question. Alrighty, here we go. So we're going to do one more question for tonight here. Last question of the evening on the tracks category. Who was the first driver to win a Winston Cup race at Talladega in a Chevrolet? Who was the first driver to win a Winston Cup race at Talladega in a Chevrolet? That is our first question. Don't look it up on Racing Reference. Just go ahead and see if you can guess. Who was the first driver to win a Winston Cup race at Talladega in a Chevrolet? That is our question. We got Darrell Waltrip. We got Brickhouse. We got Richard Brickhouse. 93-100. Yeah, you're right on top of it, man, with Fontana. You're very close. But yes, indeed, Fontana is the correct answer. The first driver to win a Winston Cup race at Talladega in a Chevrolet. That is our question. We got Darrell Waltrip, Brickhouse, Stenhouse, Brickhouse, Elmo, Juicy Soros. Oh my goodness, I can't even pronounce that. Allison, you stumped me there. Cale Yarborough, DW. Who is the first driver to win a Winston Cup race at Talladega in a Chevrolet? That is our next question, our last question for tonight. We got Waltrip, Brickhouse, Stenhouse, Allison, Brickhouse, Emil Langley. Emil Langley was a driver. He was also a team owner. The first driver to win a Winston Cup race at Talladega in a Chevrolet. Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the Brickhouse guesses. He was driving for a factory team with Mopars, it seemed. Who was the first driver to win a Winston Cup race at Talladega in a Chevrolet? And the answer, last question of the evening, get those guesses right in there. The answer is Darrell Waltrip. Darrell Waltrip is indeed the correct answer. I think a few of you guys got that one. Yep, Andrew Hayes. What was it? Let me scroll up a little bit further. LG Pro Swag, you were right on top of it. You got it first. And second across the line, Andrew Hayes there. And NASCAR Fan 93-100, you got it also. There you go. There you go. Always tricky questions there. 23. Yeah, all these questions. Some of these questions are a bit trickier than it sounds. Dave Marcus, yeah, it's a good guess. It's a good guess. But no, yeah, Chevrolet on that one there. So definitely check out the Darrell Waltrip retirement video if you want. That's a perfect note to transition on. And everything else on this channel here if you like. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the action this weekend. A bit of an unusual week, but we'll certainly compare it to what happens at Daytona in 2 weeks. We got our action coming up at Dover this weekend with, I believe, 5 races in 3 days. Going to be a bit of a challenge getting those articles done, but we're going to push through it as best as possible. And we'll do a show after the Sunday activities. Next week will be our next live show. So thank you again so much for tuning in here at the exact same time. And we'll do some more content coming up here. So again, the website is lastcar.info. Cup Series article getting posted later tonight. Twitter is at LastCarOnBrock. The Patreon is patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. Thank you again so much, everyone, for tuning in. Have a safe evening, a safe week, everyone. And we'll talk to you next time with some more action and the news of the week. Have a good evening, everyone.